and we'll go from there.
Sounds good.
You guys getting a lot of snow out there, Heather?
No, we just got a lot of rain last night. All the snow is up north. Looks like maybe northern New Hampshire got some snow, but we're in Salem, so
Yeah.
Plenty of rain.
Yeah.
You got
Plenty.
snow?
It is snowing. It's not really sticking, a little bit, but not really. Yeah.
All right. It looks like this rockets to 12 people automatically, where Facebook was like 1s and 2s. So this is great. So thanks guys for coming. Heather, Dave, and Josh. Josh is on solo on the side over there, and then Heather Knowles and Dave Caldwell. And collectively, Heather and Dave, you guys run Northern Atlantic Dive Expeditions. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Very nice. And then Josh is just a straggler you picked up along the way.
Pretty much.
Yeah, we did the dues. So
Nice. Harvey Morash says, hi, guys, from Lewisburg, Nova Scotia.
Hey, Harvey. How you doing, man?
Yeah. John Craig saying hi. So we're going to have people pop in. Let me check this out. Can you guys see this? See a little comment down in the bottom left?
Yeah. Hello.
Nice. There you go. So that's pretty sweet. So how are you guys weathering the storm? Well, not the snowstorm we were talking about before, but the coronavirus COVID storm. How are we making out?
Missing diving.
Yeah.
It's like the longest blowout ever.
Yeah.
I think North Carolina might disagree. I think they've been blown out for entire seasons before. So
yeah,
that is true.
For sure.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah. What are you guys doing to keep busy?
Well,
I mean, we're doing all kinds of stuff. We're just trying to stay focused on, having some structure to the day, staying engaged, exercising, and, trying to learn a few new things. So we're learned to bake bread. I gave Dave a haircut yesterday.
Great.
So we're just trying to stay focused on today and, just be positive.
Yep. That's a good way to do it. What about you, Josh?
Yeah, about the same. I'm still working a little bit from home a few days. So definitely trying to keep that structure on days when I'm at home and just trying to get through. It's forced me into another semi-hobby that I have of mountain biking because there's no diving here right now. So I can go 5 minutes down the street and get a little bit of exercise. So that's about it.
Very nice. And for people who don't know, Josh kind of does double duty. He hangs out up here at my shop in Syracuse periodically, and then I know he dives with you guys a lot also. So, he brings bags of bottles to get filled to me, and he's like, "I'm going places, but I can't tell you where." I'm like, "All right, thanks, bud."
Yeah. A lot of good driving, a lot of commuting.
Yep.
Yeah, Josh probably has one of the longest commutes to the dive boat.
Yeah.
But I'm usually there. Usually one of the first ones there, I might add.
Absolutely.
Josh is always on time.
Yeah, we were just discussing that. What times are. Yeah. Josh showed up at 2:15 for the 3:00 show.
That's right. Well, if you're on time, you're late. So it's the boat's not loaded at 6 for a 7:30 departure, then you're late.
Where is the boat now? Is it in dry dock? Is it where?
The boat's in it's in Beverly. It's in its harbor slip, and we stay in all winter. And it gives us the opportunity. If in the event we do want to get out on a nice day, we do have the opportunity to run. So the boat is fully operational. Over the past month and a half here, I've just kind of been working on a few projects here and there that I've been more or less procrastinating over a year or so. So it's kind of given me the opportunity to kind of step up and do those projects that I maybe have had on the back burner for a while.
Nice. Any improvements you guys are making to the boat that you want to talk about that you're making over this little break here?
Well, I'm putting a hot water system in for fresh water for a shower wash down on the back deck. So I'm looking forward to having a hot shower when I come out of the water, at least for our freshwater spray down. So that's a project that's presently underway.
That's great.
Yeah,
I'll put a link in for you guys for the into the comments to Northern Atlantic Dive Expedition so people can see the boat and everything.
oh, great. Yeah, we try to have creature comforts on the boat. You know, when we built the boat, we kind of took everything that we liked about every dive boat we've been on and everything we didn't like, and tried to, you know, incorporate all of that into the Gauntlet. And then just this past year, actually, we did a pretty significant upgrade of all of our electronics, which was really cool. And now we have Humminbird Solix system. So we've got sort of a poor man's side scan sonar and some, you know, sort of new GPS, nav, and fish finder, and everything's tied together. So it's cool. It's something, you know, fun to use when we're out there. And we've got a couple of other projects we're hoping to do, but it's always a balance of how much money you can spend, and then just, you know, a dive boat's got a lot of wear and tear, so you have to be mindful of, you know, what a set of doubles or a rebreather is going to do, bump it into something.
Yes. Gary Baker says, "Long live the banana bread."
Yes.
Long live the banana bread. Yep.
There's all the inside jokes that pop up, and I'm a little bit nervous because Matt Glass is on the side over here, and I'm wondering when the other Yahoos are showing up. But there's all these inside jokes that get thrown out there that I'm like, I don't understand, but maybe I should say this.
Well, Gary on the banana bread, we might as well explain them as we go along here. In order for Gary to go diving, Marcia, his wife, has to make him banana bread in order for him to be invited onto the boat. So, you know, that's where the banana bread comes in.
That works.
It's very popular. So
It is very, very popular.
That is excellent. I will. I'll have to research that and get a little bit of Gary's wife's banana bread. Josh, you gonna bring me some?
Sure, because it's been a while since I've seen that myself, but it's pretty some amazing bread for sure.
That's excellent. I love it. Josh actually partakes in this. I made a joke that I was like, you know what? All you guys think that I'm giving away information for free at my shop, but I expect beer. And Josh shows up and he brings me beer every time he comes up. I'm like, it was a joke, but I'll take it.
Make up a tax for Josh.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks for outing me there. Now,
Yeah, not a problem. You got to share the wealth, man. It's good beer.
Yeah. Although I have brought some cookies from time to time.
Oh,
I
yes.
don't think they made an appearance this last season.
Too funny. Any big plans for the theoretical upcoming season, and depending on what's going on, is there anything you guys are working on?
Well, I mean, normally by this point in the season, you know, we'd have the whole schedule mapped out and all of our plans, and you know, the current situation kind of took the wind out of our sails, and it's, you know, it's hard to find the balance right now of, you know, making big plans that you might not be able to do.
Yep.
But you know, we definitely plan to keep exploring the Allentown, which we've been diving since 2016, and we were able to identify just this past year. So there's a lot to explore there. Another one of the things I've done with all my free time is entered about 200 hangs into our nav software.
Nice.
So that little project that, you know, we were hoping to do but never had the time, we finally are getting to some of these things. So we've got a lot of stuff to look at, and you know, see if we can find a couple new wrecks. There's a few that are on the list still, and then you know, hoping to just do some classes. We've got a couple of classes on the books, and hopefully we'll be able to get those done too. So, you know, there's plans, but you know, everything is so tentative right now.
Yep. What classes do you guys have in the pipe?
We've got a lot of intro tech classes lined up.
Nice.
We're doing a lot of dive coaching as well as mentoring. So we have a few programs that we've established and we've been doing well with. But this year we've had a big group that was anticipating to start already with intro tech. And unfortunately, obviously, we've had to postpone those for the time being. But we'll get back to them. We have a lot of anxious guys and people and students that are looking forward to, you know, learning how to dive with doubles and get into more technical diving. So we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, we've been using, we had the same thing, and we've been using Zoom to try and get people all caught up, and so get rid of the, get checked off the classroom via Zoom instead of face to face. So when we get the water, we can hit the ground running.
Sure.
So, trying to get Rackley to do something on a professional level, Dive Master or something like that. He keeps resisting though.
Yeah, I like diving.
Yeah, going into a dive master or instructor level, that's one sure way to stop your fun diving.
It is. Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. What agency do you guys train through?
We teach through NAUI and TDI.
NAUI and TDI. Good.
Yeah. So I'm a course director trainer for NAUI, also a technical instructor examiner for NAUI. And then we keep TDI as more or less a secondary agency where we train up through open circuit trimix.
Nice. That's good. And you guys just made the switch to XCCR, yes?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess it was
about
2 years
2
ago.
years ago.
Time has definitely flown, but yeah, I guess it was March. I saw my Facebook feed showing some memories, and yeah, March 2018 we made the switch.
Nice. That's good. So you guys are liking those?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're nice units. We've been happy with them.
Yeah.
We really like the modularity. We went to truck in November 2018, I guess.
Yep.
And, we were able to pack them into a small carry-on, fit them in the overhead. I know you can do that with a lot of rebreathers, but, we like the different size canisters. So we've got an 8-pound scrubber. We've got a 5.5-pound scrubber. We can kind of scale it up or scale it down depending on how compact we need to be. We've all sort of dealt with the pain of checked bag fees. And, Josh can tell you about our adventure in Egypt, if anyone would like to hear about
absolutely.
Tales from the Crypt.
Of course, I lucked out on that. I mean, going over, I was just super nice and to the gate person, and they gave me free baggage over. And coming back, I can't remember. I think they felt bad for me because I was like, I had my rebreather, and it was like there was a little bit of a language barrier, and taking they were saying, "Oh, it's over." So I was like taking out like a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and it like turned out it was like it was probably like 15 pounds over or something ridiculous. So they were just like, "Forget it, we'll just give it to you," which they did.
Nice.
But it's definitely a couple of us are rethinking how we're going to travel in the future with luggage and what we're checking and how we're going to do it.
Yeah. So did you check that bag? You checked your rebreather? Is that why you were over?
Oh, yeah. It just makes it easier. Egypt, I didn't bring my camera, but I did it when I went to truck in 2017. So it's when you got a camera, DSLR, you get the camera, the lights, and the housing, and all of that. I mean, that was my carry-on. So I wasn't able to take the rebreather. Plus, a lot of these airlines, Truck United was kind of open. Of course, this was 3 years ago. I mean, they didn't really weigh anything, but going over to Egypt, we were on a couple different airlines, and they were definitely weighing carry-on and checking carry-on.
Oh, really?
Yes.
And limiting the number of carry-ons. So this was the really unpleasant situation that we had in Cairo on the way home. Josh can tell you about this. He was packing his pockets full of stuff because they wouldn't let us take 2 carry-ons on the plane. They, normally you have your personal bag and then a carry-on. And our personal bags were, I guess, a little bigger than they would normally be, like a backpack, for example. And they called that a carry-on. And then like the rollerboard carry-on, they considered to be a second carry-on. So they insisted that we check it. And not everyone could check what was in those bags. Maybe they had a dive light or a rebreather or a camera or something that was fragile and couldn't be checked. So in a true team effort, we came together and redistributed things into bags, and we had to check what we had to check, and we've got everyone's stuff home safely. But it was kind of there was a little bit of a lesson in what we're probably looking at in the future, and that's unreliable. It's unreliable what you're going to be able to carry on, and so you're either going to be checking more, or you're going to have to just continue to be able to pack stuff smaller.
Yeah.
Or pay up.
Well, right. If you can check it, right.
Yeah.
So like you might not be able to check a light, or, if we're traveling with our cameras, we don't want to check all the components of the cameras. And it's just this ever challenging Tetris game. And, Egypt definitely made us rethink some things, especially with the challenges we had coming home.
Yeah, it was bad. I mean, we had checked in everything, like gone through the gate and all of that, and gone through the check-in process with our bags and stuff. And this was after that we were stopped, and they were like, "You can't have 2 bags." And we were like, "Why?" And like, "Well, too many people have 2 bags." It's like, "Well, we're allowed to have 2 bags." And I was actually pretty conservative in what I had. I just had like a messenger style bag that wasn't even full, and just a small soft duffel. So no problem in terms of that. But and that at that point it was just like pulling stuff out and trying to make sure I didn't have batteries, like lithium-ion batteries and things like that was going to then go checked. They checked the bag for free, so it was fine, but it was not it was things had to get checked that I didn't want checked. So it was pretty frustrating. It was super early in the morning too, and I don't even remember, but it was probably like
we all wanted to be home at that point. We were like, in our last sort of the end of the trip. We'd been in Egypt for like 12 or 13 days, I think, and we were ready to leave.
Yeah.
Very quickly.
All right. Lauren Fitzgerald says hi. Barbara Knowles just says Thomas. Oh, she's trying to share it. And Nick Hollis says hello. He says, "What's up?"
Nick, how you doing?
Hey, everyone.
Hey.
He's just previewing because he's worried about what's going to happen, I'm sure, when I have them on next week. So
yeah,
he's just checking in.
We let someone else be the guinea pig for this format, so
yep. Yeah, it's a good format. I like it.
It's nice.
Yeah. So we kind of covered what you guys had planned for summers and classes and the boat. Let's get to some diving stories. So we'll start with you guys, Heather and Dave. How'd you guys kind of get started diving? What's that deal like?
It was so darn long ago, I don't remember.
We both started diving as children. My father got me into diving. He's a diver. And so I was always I loved the water. I used to be on the swim team, and I just had an affinity for the water. And, he used to go diving every Sunday. And when he came home, I would be so keen to, check out the dive gear. And I always hoped he would come home with like 500 PSI in his tank and take me diving in the pool.
Yep.
And eventually he did. And he started teaching me to dive. And I made my first dive in the ocean at 10, way before I could be certified. Back when you could do things like that with your kids and people wouldn't call the Department of Child Services, I guess. And I got certified at 13, and I loved diving. I loved shipwrecks. I was really fascinated by the Andrea Doria. That was, a goal for me to dive that wreck. And I just always loved diving from as far back as I can remember.
My 10-year-old does the same thing. She waits for the truck to roll up. She knows what my bailout looks like, and she grabs it and like looks at me, and I'm like, "Go ahead, take it in the pool. Yes, you can go." We go in the pool. As soon as she sees the truck roll up with the rebreather, she's going after it. So
it's awesome.
That's great.
Yeah. Josh, how'd you start diving?
Oh, back. So I grew up in Virginia on the Chesapeake Bay, and I always had a fascination with history. I mean, we've got Jamestown, Williamsburg down there, and of course Yorktown. And I grew up very close to Yorktown, so I would spend a lot of days when I was younger watching the National Geographic did a story on the excavations. If anybody wants to read about it, back in the 80s, excavating the Civil War shipwrecks and things that are in the river there. And so that was really captured my fascination. But I've always been around the water and boats and things like that. So I learned how to dive probably about 15, 16 years ago. And first couple of years was just more catch a dive here or there. And when I moved to Nashville, that's really when it took off. We did a lot of mucky-ucky diving in the lakes. But there's a lot of great stuff. We would go out and find cars, and there's a quarry out there that's no longer operational, but it flooded with all the buildings and the equipment in it. So you could go up and down the hallways and swim through the buildings, and that really captured my love of diving, and of course we were close to Florida as well. So when I moved up to Boston, probably about 6-7 years ago, I knew what I wanted to do, and that's when I met Heather and Dave and started my route to technical training and rebreather diving.
Yep. Excellent. So one of the reoccurring kind of questions that we get with all of this is exploration. How someone becomes an explorer. Everybody was asked, how do I become an explorer? And Jill and Heinrich and I were discussing it and saying it's as simple as you dive somewhere that someone hasn't really been yet with somebody and go look at stuff and see what you can find. I was discussing it with like Gaudreau and how many times they've dove just wet rocks and gone down and it's just a pile of rocks, from when they were looking for it. So how did you guys start, I guess the term exploring, but how did you start looking for boats?
We started getting into exploration diving probably about 20 years ago. And part of the foundation of our business, Northern Atlantic Dive Expeditions, was exploration of shipwrecks. And we have a very vast area of geography for wrecks. Many have been discovered, and those are the wrecks we consider bread and butter wrecks that we go to on a regular basis. But we also have a very long list of, as Heather mentioned, hangs, and we've been very slowly just nitpicking through that list, looking for shipwrecks. And we've been pretty successful over the years. It's been a lot of work. We spend a lot of time. There's, a lot of frustration at points. As you mentioned, there are those rock piles, and, we try to do our best to minimize diving on them. So,
yeah.
I think we were, part of, wanting to have our own boat was to have the vehicle to sort of get out there and look for things. But I think, we got introduced to that. I guess we all have a natural curiosity, and some of us, have interest in history, or we have interest in shipwrecks specifically, or just sort of being curious and getting out there. But I think we started to get introduced to people that could mentor us and, create opportunities for us to start doing some of that. And for us, that goes back to the Wahoo with Steve Belinda and Hank Garvin and Janet Beezer, and Eric Takajian, who used to run a boat called the Gray Eagle, which was actually a little before my time even.
Not before mine.
Not before. But a lot of these people took us under their wing, and they mentored us, and as we progressed, they gave us opportunities to join. We started, going on some expedition type trips offshore. We got to dive out on George's Bank with our friend Eric, and we learned a lot. And so then when the time came that we had our own boat, some of those people came and dove with us and helped us, sort of progress it along as it being sort of our thing. And then we started to grow a group of friends who are like-minded. That's, where people like Josh come in. We were able to meet and bring in people who were like-minded and had similar interests and were good team players. And that just helped, create a dynamic that allowed us to get out there and start exploring and making progress, not just going out there and wandering around, but, we could really, make some objectives and have a plan to go do it.
Nice. What was the first wreck that you guys found?
It's a good question. Probably
the first notable wreck that we were involved with, again, it was a team effort. Bob Foster and Heather, myself, and there was a few other people, Jack Ahern, and we dove the YF and discovered the YF 415. And that was really the first. It was a military ship, military Navy ship, and that was really the first historically significant wreck that we discovered and participated in discovering, I should say.
It was before we had the Gauntlet, and we were diving on a boat called the Donna 3, and that's where Dave and I started Northern Atlantic dive expeditions. We didn't have a boat, and so we started a business, and we used to charter the Donna 3 for like the whole season. And then we would fill the boat and go out diving, and we had been diving with a group of friends, doing exploration work, and Bob Foster had developed a set of targets, and we were out investigating them, and we ended up diving this one at about 240 feet of water, and it turned out to be a really important and interesting find, the wreck of the YF 415, which I guess is a story for another day, but that has been a truly remarkable story where almost over 15 years later, we still have people contacting us about the wreck, relatives, descendants of people who were on the vessel that, coordinated the rescue of YF 415 sailors. Like, we've made so many incredible connections from the YF story. Dave, Bob, and I have met with some of them, and it's just that was a really interesting and rewarding experience. But I guess that would be our first one, being part of that team that discovered that wreck. And then I think for us, once we had the Gauntlet, we had searched for and found a number of different wrecks, fishing boats, things like that. But I guess the Nezinscot would have been probably the next historically significant wreck. And that was a tugboat that sank in 1909 up north of Cape Ann. So a little bit of a ride for us. But that was another fascinating story where, you start diving into the archival records and you just keep peeling the layers back and the story gets more and more interesting. So I guess, the YF and the Nezinscot are really two that really stand out.
Nice. Josh, what was your first, was this one the Allentown, was this your first one, or were you participating before that?
Yeah, so the Allentown would be the first expedition style, exploration style diving that I've been part of. And of course, there's always been that spirit there. And you were talking about what is it, or what does it take to be an explorer? And I think there's always that spirit inside. I mean, even when I was diving in Nashville, we would go out and look for like sunken cars, and
Right.
go out to like Party Cove where people would tie up their boats, and we would go early in the morning on like a Friday, and just look for stuff. Nothing historical, obvious, but we'd find all kinds of stuff, and it's just that spirit. And so now being able to really, incorporate a little bit of history and incorporate the camaraderie and teamwork of diving and with good friends, and it's more than just the diving. It's also about the people that were on the ships that go down. A lot of these ships are graves for people, so it becomes much more than just diving. It's much bigger.
Absolutely. So the mystery of the steamship Allentown, you guys discovering the Allentown, my perspective of this entire thing is Josh coming in for Phil's going, I need this mix. Where are you off to? I just need this mix. Like, all right, I know you're up to something. And then I'm like, what depth? He's like, just give me this mix, basically. I'm like, all right, we're down. I'm done. I understand. I won't press any further. I just want you to share as soon as you can. So we got to chat about it previously, but I'm really excited to have you guys on here and talking about this. So why don't you give us kind of a rundown of how you guys found this and the story behind you guys finding this wreck?
Sure. Yeah, if you want to clip to the next slide.
Next slide, you can see a picture of what it looked like before it sank.
Let me turn this one off and turn this one on. Beautiful.
There you go. So the Allentown actually has kind of eluded a lot of people over the years because there really wasn't any easy to find documentation of it sinking, and a lot of it was really not known about. And as Heather mentioned earlier, our friend Eric Takajian, he actually started this search probably about better part of 30 years ago. And Eric has been a longtime friend of mine and Heather's as well. And he turned us on to more or less continuing his search probably about 20 years ago. And, he made mention to it. He said, this has been something I've been looking for a number of years, more or less just, handed us and passed off his research for us to continue the search for the Allentown. So we had been working in collaboration with Eric as well as the team. And, we've been, looking, kind of cherry picking along. There was one point a few years back that we actually thought we found it, which we didn't.
Yeah, if you want to go to the engine slide, there's
a
click
picture
two ahead.
2 slides ahead, yeah.
All right, so that's okay, yep, I got you. Hide, show on stream. That there?
Yeah, so this was a dive that Eric and I came down on for the first time, and all of us dove it. It was actually an interesting. This is the steam engine that we came across, and when Eric and I, we had this view of it, and we were kind of coming along the bottom, and we both just looked up, and in amazement, we looked at each other, and we were like, "This has got to be the Allentown. This is it. This is the steam engine." I mean, we're looking around, and then very quickly we realized that it wasn't the Allentown. But what it did do is it led us down a path to be able to use engine specifications to positively identify a shipwreck. And we do that by measuring the cylinder head, the type of engine that it was. And we were able to start cataloging specifications from engines, and in particular, the Allentown itself. And for example, that's when Eric measuring the Allentown, the cylinder head of the Allentown, and that actually came within 1 inch of the specifications off the enrollment forms.
Wow.
So that's where that first steam engine took us into being able to eventually move on, find the Allentown, and then positively identify it.
Yeah, I mean it's a wreck that a lot of people had been looking for. Way before our time. So we got lucky in some ways that we got invited to join the search for it. And, we dove a lot of targets with Eric and with the team on the Gauntlet, and it came up empty. I mean, we found a lot of other interesting wrecks, so it wasn't for nothing. But what really was the break for us in the story of the Allentown was the collaboration we have with NOAA. In the Stellwagen Bank National Marine Sanctuary, where we're doing collaborative research with them. They basically give us sonar targets, which are unexplored shipwrecks, and then we go out and dive them. And then we document the wrecks, we write reports, we report back to them, we share the imagery, and help them catalog and identify what their inventory of shipwrecks is that they aren't able to go and do themselves. And that in turn helps us with our research, because we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. Like, they already know where this stuff is. They might as well just share it with us, so we aren't diving things that are already known and be crossed off the list. So this was sort of the backdrop to the search for the Allentown, and why it made a lot of sense for us to partner with them and tap into the information that they already had. And in turn, we were helping them. And so as it turns out, we had dove probably 7 targets under the agreement. And then one day, Matthew Lawrence, who was the maritime archaeologist at the sanctuary at the time, he came to me and he said, we have this other target. It's actually outside of the sanctuary. They were doing synthetic aperture sonar surveys. And when they were making a turn, they picked up a piece of a wreck. But because it wasn't in the sanctuary, they didn't investigate it. And he said, we'd like to know what this is, because it's bearing on our research in terms of trying to rule some things in or out.
Yeah.
So are you guys interested in going out there? And it was basically this really grainy image where you could see kind of 2 pieces of a wreck. And when I saw it, I was like, oh, this is something good. So, without being too excited about it, we kind of went back and got the team together, and we went out there and dived it. And the first dive we did, the conditions were terrible. The visibility was maybe 3 feet. We really all we could really do was just kind of get down there and just look around and make a couple of observations. But when we did make the dive and we realized it was an iron hulled vessel, there was coal everywhere. Like it put the Allentown kind of at the top of the list along with another vessel. And that's really what sort of catalyzed the whole project is, we got this opportunity to explore a target that was given to us by NOAA. And as it turns out, the wreck was the Allentown.
Wow. Yeah, the sonar image from is your guys' sonar image, right? It's not theirs.
Correct. Yeah. So after we dove the wreck, it was kind of near the end of the season, and we didn't have a lot of time to get back out there. And the first dive was to that middle piece on the far right. That's the midship section. We didn't know it was the midship at the time. So we did a survey sort of at the end of the season, and our friend Mark Monroe, who's a really talented side scan sonar operator,
A little late bringing us all back in there. Oh, it rearranges us if I put us in a different order. Interesting. It's like Hollywood Squares over here. Josh, what were your first dives on it like? When did you get involved in this whole thing?
Yeah, so we started. I started diving out this last year, and
sounds like. Let me just interrupt for a minute. It looks like we lost some sound there.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
We can, but I'm just looking at some of the comments. Yeah.
Really, we lost sound, huh?
Hey, Harvey, can you hear us?
Let's see. Okay, yeah, it looks.
Oh, we're back.
Yeah, so it's definitely a challenging dive. I mean, this is tough diving. I mean, the visibility. I don't think 15 feet might be very generous as the best, but that is definitely not the most common. I mean, visibility is typically very poor, heavy particulate. There tends to be quite a bit of current. Just challenging dives. Of course, we're used to it, but for those who aren't, I mean, it's cold water diving for sure. And it's and you don't know, that's half the thing is you don't know what the wreck is. I mean, we were checking this wreck out, so we didn't quite know where we were going or what the conditions were going to be like. I mean, I remember a dive that was super sketchy. So we were diving 3 teams of 3, and I was on the unofficial J team. It's myself and Jessica and John, and we go down. Visibility was not good this dive. The current was fairly moderate going down, but we were able to get down okay, sort of mild to moderate on the wreck. And our task or mission this dive was to try to get into the engine room and see what we can see in there. And we got down, we went down the line, we got outside of the entrance that we were going to penetrate through, and started to go in and very quickly realized just how, I mean, we were the first people that had ever been in there and how quickly it silted out. I mean, just looking, just breathing, just silted it out completely. And we did make it back, running a line, made it back, and just realized that we needed to get back out of here before we even had a chance to really, poke around too much. And of course, we're down there, we're remaining calm, and it was kind of after all this, it was kind of like, well, boy, that was super sketchy. But we turned around, and I was following Jess, and I mean, the only thing that I could see was just a faint glow of light. And sometimes when she would kick me in the face, so, I mean, that's how close we were, and we just couldn't see each other. So when we got back out and coming back up, I think this was probably the day that also had the worst current. I mean, we were hanging on to that line. I mean, I deployed my John line. I think we were all on a John line, and we were just being blown way, just, it was bad. It was bad. And, we got back up there and we were all kind of looking at each other like, wow, that was super sketch. That was, maybe should not have been doing that.
Well, you live to learn from it, right? And that's
right.
That's right.
Yeah. So going forward from there, so you guys identified it from the boiler sizes. Did you need anything else to support your claims, or was that sufficient enough?
No, we actually had a number of things. The engine was kind of like the clincher. But we had been diving the bow section and using deck plans. We were able to capture video as well, images, still images, various points on the wreck. And we were able to match those directly to the deck plans for the Allentown. There was a question that we had in play for another wreck known as the Ganos, and we were kind of making a determination between the two and using deck plans from the Ganos as well from the Allentown, doing a comparison, observations, things such as that. And that's more or less kind of collecting objective information and data. And, we were able to kind of collectively pull all that together. And that's how we made the determination.
We were certain that it was the Allentown. We started diving the wreck in 2016. We dove the bow section in 2017, which was sort of the start of the next season after first diving it. So we had shifted over to the bow as our next objective. And we knew it was the Allentown, but we didn't want to just make that claim with nothing to back it up. I mean, there's always the possibility you're wrong and you damage your credibility, by having to walk it back. So we really wanted some evidence that was a little bit more definitive. Where the wreck's in 3 pieces, we couldn't really get an accurate measurement. I mean, we did take beam measurements, but the difference between the Ganos and the Allentown in terms of the dimensions was so close, it was almost negligible. So it was really observations comparing to the deck plans. But measuring the engine cylinders was really the only thing that we could do to get something definitive that was also differentiating. So the Ganos had a distinctly different size engine. And that gave us the confidence that we could make the statement it's the Allentown without it being sort of a guess that, was, kind of built on assumptions.
Nice. And then you guys continue to dive it. You were mapping out as much as you could. How did the mapping out go? Did you guys use photogrammetry? Did archaeologists come in or anything like that afterwards? Where'd it go from there?
So we're still looking at some of those possibilities. Because the wreck's in state waters, we actually are diving it under a permit. So we're collaborating with the state. And one of the things that they are interested in doing is a photogrammetry project. I think it would be super challenging because of the conditions. And I think Josh did an excellent job of painting that picture. I can tell you it is so hard taking photos and video there. You're diving a rebreather. You're in 3 feet of viz. It's sketchy, kind of dark, murky water, and now you've got a camera in the mix. It's a lot. You're really stretching your capacity with those conditions. And to do a photogrammetry project, I think will be really challenging. We haven't said no to it, but we just need to sort of think about how we could do it and what it would require. Beyond that, we're trying to document with photos and video. We'd like to develop a detailed site map. But right now, the next objective is to dive the stern, which we expect is mostly, especially if you look at the side scan image, it looks like a debris field, which means it's going to be low to the bottom and probably the worst viz of the 3, the deepest. So it's going to be unpleasant.
Not looking forward to tying in on that one.
No, little tiny snippets at a time. You're right. That's a piece of metal, sure.
Yeah, that will look good.
Yeah. So very nice. The book you guys sent over. Explain what's going on with that book.
That's the book, The Dangerous Shallows, and this is what our friend Captain Eric Takajian had put together. It's a culmination of his discoveries over the past 30 years, diving in Massachusetts Bay as well as Nantucket Sound. He has a tremendous amount of knowledge on the history. He's probably has located about 80 to 90 shipwrecks throughout this region. Many of our regular diving wrecks that we go to, he was the first one to discover them. And it's a great story about, his, discoveries over the years. And it does lead up to the Allentown and how he actually found it in the end. And we've worked with Eric for many years. He's a very long time friend of ours. So there's a number of wrecks that he had discovered that we had participated in the discoveries with him. But it's a good read, especially this time of year.
If you're looking for some reading material, this will get you through a couple of days. There's a good chapter devoted to the Allentown in the book. Talks about the history, the discovery, and the diving effort. But it goes a little bit further, I think, into what wreck diving is really about for a lot of us, and that's connecting to people and telling stories. And so the Allentown was lost with all 18 crew. There were no survivors. And that's part of what made it a mystery to find is, without any survivors, there were really no witnesses. And so its reported location relative to where it was actually found is quite significantly different. But Eric gets into some of that in the story, and in particular, his efforts to locate a descendant of one of the crew members on the Allentown. So he located a man named Kevin Slovak, who is the great grandson. The Allentown sank in 1888, so we're going way back. Great grandson of the chief engineer. And he located Kevin and met with him, and Kevin had no idea about the story and his family history in this regard, and was fascinated. And it just sort of opened up a whole new chapter in his life and his ancestry, learning about his family and the story of the Allentown. And so one of the things that we were hoping to do, and it may or may not happen this year, but we were hoping to get him up here and bring him out to the wreck site. But Eric talks about that in the book, which I think is a really nice summary of the story, but also it kind of drives home, what our true motivation is for a lot of this, which is, connecting to people, being able to tell stories that have been forgotten, and bring new life to these shipwrecks.
Yeah, absolutely. Does he have a website or anything? I tried to get a quick search for him, but I can't find anything to send him some.
This Quest Marine Services is his business, but I think if you Google the title of the book, it'll take you to a couple of places, and you can get it on Amazon and Goodreads.
Yeah, I grabbed it off of Goodreads. So
yeah.
Cool, very nice. So you guys have a lot more work to do on this, but you guys have gotten a good start from what it seems like.
Yeah, there's always more to explore.
Yeah, absolutely. So is the focus going to be on this one, or primarily, or are you guys going to try and find some other wrecks at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, we'd like to find the Ganos. It was the other possible match, and that would be a really great find too. That one is almost as old as the Allentown, and let's see, it sank in 1881, so it actually was a few years before the Allentown. That would be a great find.
Yeah.
And then there's a few others that are not as significant, but they would be interesting. They're sort of Depression era shipwrecks that were scuttled off Boston as part of the Works Progress Administration Act. So it would just sort of round out some of that history. So the list is endless.
Yeah, I see a question that popped up from Dennis about if any of our team members are diving open circuit. Not necessarily on this particular wreck. Pretty much everybody diving on the Allentown project are all diving closed circuit. We do have some open circuit divers that are diving with us, but they're usually diving anywhere from, say, the 160 to 180 foot range. It becomes a limiting factor with open circuit.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That 200 foot mark is kind of like that threshold where gas really starts to go real quickly.
Expensive.
And it gets very expensive for some.
When we were diving the Nezinscot in 2007, Dave and I had just started diving rebreathers in 2006, and we weren't quite ready for that 250 depth range on rebreathers. And we were all still diving open circuit, and helium was a lot cheaper then, and it was still, a few $100s a dive in gas. So,
Josh and I were just discussing that with truck and what the price change difference is between open circuit and closed circuit. Yeah.
Depends on how you want to do the math, but
Yeah.
If you're big or go home, you're all in at that point.
Yes, you are. Yeah, I was supposed to be in truck right now. That's why we were discussing it. So that got canceled. But
it's a bummer.
Josh, what are your plans for the summer? Are you going to head out there and do some more research on this one, or?
Oh yeah, I'll be out. I see what we're going to do, but I'll definitely be out there doing some fun diving and hopefully some exploration diving as well. And also maybe up in the St. Lawrence and a few other local things. Seneca Lake is kind of nice in a pinch because it's close to me. I don't have to make a big trip out of something. And there's some cool little barge wrecks and things in there. So yeah, be a little bit here, a little bit there.
I'm sure if we scooted around in there, we could find some other stuff.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I think I know they were marking some targets.
Yeah, Josh has got a scooter waiting for him.
Yeah. I know they were marking some targets up at the north end of Seneca Lake. So I don't know. I'm sure there's still some more down in the southern part.
Yeah. There's plenty. I would love to see some more stuff actually found in the Finger Lakes, but trying to find somebody that's actually going to do it and not even share the numbers, but involve people that can actually dive them is a challenge. So but that's the Finger Lakes overall. So that pretty much brings us to time there. Are you guys doing any presentations? I mean, obviously not right this second, but is there any presentations coming up in the fall or something that's rescheduled from like Beneath the Sea or anything like that you want to talk about or anything like that?
Yeah, we'll be hopefully speaking at BTS if it comes out this year. And we do have a video that we had put together for this. We had spoken at the Shipwreck Symposium by the back in February.
Yeah.
With an excellent turnout. That's been becoming a really good show lately. So we'll have to see how things go.
Good. Very nice. Are you guys going to go down to Tech Dive USA? Did you have plans to do that previously, or?
We didn't have plans for this year, but I know it's been pushed to 2021, so that's a possibility. We're hoping to do some cave diving this spring and get back down to High Springs, but that's, I think, on
hold.
On hold along with everything else. So all our gear is overhauled. The garage has never been cleaner. All our tanks are filled. Yeah.
There are a whole lot of projects coming out of this thing. I know Ross Baxter is like remaking an entire like bus, and I don't even know. He just sends videos of things that he makes. Mike McDonald's making benches. Everybody's just doing some random stuff. So
yeah. Well, we have Mike McDonald. He lives right around the corner from us, like little 5 minutes away.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Thank you.
My condolences.
Every few minutes, I have these pictures coming back to me. Well, what should I do? Where should I go? Who do I do? How do I?
Now he's on the Gas Blender Facebook group, so he might not be paying you too much attention now because he's busy on there.
Yeah. He's doing a great job. He's given us some ideas. So yeah, he's moving along.
Yep. There's
Mike
and Ross.
Mobile Command Center. Yeah, we know what that's all about. We've got one of those.
That's great. For people that don't know what's going on, is basically they are reoccurring jokes that go along through the live stream type stuff that everybody's kind of in the same geographical area, and it has some sort of interactions, and that's where it's all coming from. So
yeah, and there's always a theme behind it, and like you say, it's like you just need to get in on the story, and then you can add to it and pick up right where it left off. So
go through and watch the other videos that I posted, and you'll figure out what's going on. Everybody's saying thank you. Thank you for such an informative conversation. You guys rock. Oh, you guys can see them now. I don't even have to.
We can see them here. Yeah.
Well, thanks for inviting us to
it's
talk
been
with
great.
you today.
It's been fun.
My pleasure. Yeah, it gives me a little sanity in my ever so crazy life. So
no, that's fantastic, and it's a great service to put out there for people. It keeps people engaged. That everybody's kind of feeling the same pains here, and we're all eager to get back into the water when the time is right for all of us.
Yeah, I completely agree. Oh, Matt Glass is giving me crap because I don't have whiskey. All right. Thank you very, very much, guys. It was a pleasure talking to you. If you guys when you get to points where you want to discuss any other new things, just let me know, and we can do something similar on the next one you guys find. I know you won't say it too early, but I'll know, because when Josh comes in asking for random mixes and won't tell me what he's up to, I'll know something's up. So I'll contact you guys too.
Sounds great.
Good. Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much.
Take care. Stay safe.
Take care.
Yep.
See you later.
Stay healthy, guys. Take care. Thank you.
You too.
Bye.
All right. Bye, guys.